What's good, y'all? It's your boy Choji. I'm gonna talk to you guys because this is on my mind right now. I'm here at work, but young folks is they're cooking up. Can't show their face because they are vulnerable youths, and we are not allowed to do that. Anyways, all right. So this is what I wanted to speak about: the fact that academics may not really be a Drake fan. Like, I think he's clearly inspired by Drake, like his business acumen, and I think a lot of folks just there's a whole generation of folk between the ages of maybe as young as 25. I'll go as young as 25 to like 36, my age, even 37, Drake's age, who are inspired by the moves that he's done over the last 10 years. It's like, God damn, like this dude is very, very amazing in terms of how he puts his foot on people's neck to get that bread. But right now, folks is questioning it. And they're saying it's not hip hop, it's not the culture, when everything that Drake, all the moves Drake has pulled from has been industry moves. All the chess plays he's pulled from. It's like that game Go. He's playing within the realm of new moves that we know. But in that game Go, there's a bunch of rules and a bunch of moves you can do. Technically infinite amount of moves. If you know about the game against the top Go player on the planet and an AI system, I don't remember its name. I'm not gonna go through all that, but he beat it, or eventually it beat him, and it beat him by doing a move that was never seen. Right, so the AI model was able to interpret and literally created a move. It did a move that nobody in the Go scene was used to. But technically, it's still a Go move because it's on the board. It's a legal move. And that's what we're seeing here with Drake's situation. A lot of folks is like, oh, we don't go to court. We don't go to court. And then boom, I could pull up about 1 billion situations of artists, hip hop artists going to court, suing their label, suing other artists. People are talking about Lil Yachty was suing, or not Lil Yachty, was talking about the Migos was suing, right? Their label. The legal system is just how you enforce the contracts you're signing. So if you're not willing to go to court, why are you signing a deal? Like, why are you even going through the legality of putting your Johnny Hancock on paper? That's already not the culture. If you're just signing contracts, putting your life down on paper to another individual, when you could have just stayed to yourself. So already you're selling out from signing, right? So talking and thinking that the culture is still at that point where, oh, you sold out because you signed. No, we've been past that. Everybody signs. That was an argument back in the 70s and the 80s. We're in 2024. So Drake not only signs, he signs the best deals ever an artist could sign, and he's helping the entire game to the point where he feels faux pas, right? He feels like there's been actions done against him. And we've seen situations like this in the past. Here's an example. Big man, 50 Cent, right? I could right now be sued just by calling his name. Because back in 2002, 50 Cent, he trademarked his name. He sued Rick Ross back in 2015 for just jumping on his beat in the club to do like a diss to him. He sued him for that. He sued other artists for mentioning his name in their songs because he trademarked his name and they didn't get permission to mention his name. I think actually from that might have started the new trend of the subliminal diss, because folks didn't want to get sued. I don't know if you remember that, but real hip hop heads, especially early internet hip hop heads, remember those articles, remember those blog posts, remember that those conversation fodders about folks like, damn, like the game's changed. You can't call out no dude on no record. You're gonna get sued. And I believe even Jay-Z, there could be a story of Jay-Z doing something similar, suing folks for mentioning his name or label, right? I want to say it was Game. but I didn't get a chance to properly research. But I think it might have been Game one time that 50 sued. I wouldn't be surprised for mentioning his name. So hip hop already has a long lineage of individuals suing folks for their art and what has been done in their art. We already see that we're at a point where even law enforcement will use your lyrics to reinforce their points in court. Not literally law enforcement, but lawyers, prosecutors, right? And the judges will ratify these points and say, okay, and use it against you in court of law. So you have to understand the world of business when it comes to art is a bit different than your hobbyist perspective of doing art and expressing yourself and being therapeutic. These are brands representing themselves and selling product and creating attention, which is the number one currency for them. Attention and having your attention is the currency. Because through having your attention, they could sell marketing and advertisement, ad placements to companies looking to capitalize on the attention that they've garnered. So when Drake's at a position where he's having billion-dollar conversations about the level of attention he garners as an entity, as a brand, this is not just a one guy saying, "Yo, you guys are taking my money." Think about any other billion-dollar entity, Apple, like anything that we're talking about that's in the billions, billion, even just 1 billion. Any other company that we're talking about as one, we're talking about hundreds of employees. We're talking about infrastructures that work together, systems that work together, already encapsulated to be called this one brand, quote unquote Drake. So you guys are thinking, yeah, it's Aubrey. Yeah, it is Aubrey because he's the CEO. But there's an entire factory work system of people being affected, folks who are looking to get their raise, folks who invested or whatever the situation to push on this next frontier of the last project so that they can eat from the new project. There's a lot of things, not saying it's like some pyramid scheme where you're at the bottom hoping for your payout, but it's almost is kind of like that, where the next deal that Drake gets allows folks who hung out for the previous deal to get their payout, or folks who were with him on the first deal to finally get paid out from this deal. This is kind of how the game works. Even the fact that they can leverage to give him a deal of that amount is based on the fact that they have ownership in his previous projects. And every time he drops a new project, he gets more streams to the older ones. All right, so they're eating both ways. They're eating off of the new music, but they don't have to eat so much because they're also eating off of the older projects. So they can leverage and give him more money up front because they know they're going to get it all back in, even more so now that they've purchased Song Trust and CD Baby. So they, in terms of just market share and distribution shares and certain things, they just have way more control of the game, and they can make these numbers make sense for them. So for them to turn around and act like they need to cheap him out and say, you know what, instead of giving you 1 billion, we're gonna give you 400 milli, and folks is like, Drake should be happy with that. Come on, cut it out, cut it out. We're not talking about Drake, Aubrey Graham should be happy. This is an entity. This is an entity doing a partnership with the distribution company, and the distribution company basically tried to devalue the entire entity off of some weird chess play moves that in the court of law would not work. So yes, culturally and for hip hop, Drake lost, right? Because whatever, the coup. There was a coup. If you don't want to admit it, it was a coup. There was a coup in terms of who's running streaming and how streaming is being looked at for the next decade or for the foreseeable future. Obviously, from the past, we know Spotify, Apple, and everybody built streaming through Drake's music. That's a fact. If you don't believe me, go research it yourself. You'll see the amount of evidence that shows you at certain pertinent times when these streaming agencies, when these DSPs and streaming agencies were figuring out how to retain market share and how to gain attention, what they did, the type of deals they did, and who were the first artists to get those deals. Drake, for instance, in terms of his Apple deal, first artist, black artist to get that deal, first hip hop artist to get that deal in terms of a radio station, all these kinds of things. So when you put that into context, you're like, okay, he really bolstered this new form of media through his brand being the guy and co-signing these new waves of media instead of us still going to the store and owning a physical CD. right? You're paying for an album and you don't own it. That's because Drake allowed that to be something that you're okay with, at least for his music, and then obviously everyone else's music, because that's just the standard now. Not saying he's the first. Clearly, we were listening to other pieces of music online before Drake, but that definitely ushered in and took away the distaste of us paying for something that we grew up getting for free. Napster, LimeWire, that was our understanding. If we're on a computer, we're not paying for the music. So Drake ushered in an idea of our generation actually paying for music on a computer and pushing that forward, revitalized the entire industry. So he definitely deserves the Billy at this point, being the biggest artist championing this technology with his brand. The entire company, the producers, the other collaborative artists signed to his brand, everybody basically championed this technology and the front runners of this technology, the DSPs and the label itself. So Spotify, I believe, understands this because when he took away his petition, and I guess he probably got the information he needed from them, their response is that they're cool, like we don't really need to fight. But Universal's response was, nah, we still got beef. So at this point, I'm not saying my conclusion on the situation because that's yet to be understood. Just so many pieces that I still want to read about and learn about, but just ask POV on it. Ask Take to say that he doesn't like this Drake move. I think it's coming from two places, two main pieces. The one is that lie, the fact that Drake lied to him about his conversation with that dude who wanted to expose the football player, right? So I think that's irking Ak a bit more than he's letting on. But also, just generally, he's standing with the streamers. He's a streamer himself, so that bias is there. So as much as he rocks with Drake, he's inspired by him. When it comes to this conversation of saying Drake is angry that the label whitelist records so that streamers could react to it without getting their videos taken down. Ak is like, damn, I would love for all music to be whitelisted so that we can react to it. So he doesn't like that point, but he's not understanding. That's not the nuance of how the argument is being presented. Drake's probably not against whitelisting music, as he leaked records before he submitted them to the label just so that it would be whitelisted for you guys to react to it. The difference is the label itself as an entity does not stand for whitelisting music. The whole idea is for it to recoup. So for it to do that purposely in a battle made no sense. If it was for the battle, whitelist everyone's song. They're both signed to your label. So all the music should be whitelisted so that everyone can react to it. And then at that point, you cannot say, oh, this is what we've done to Drake in the past. No, you have not done that for Drake in the past. You would have to prove that Drake and Meek's situation, Drake's music was whitelisted and Meek's wasn't. We don't have that conversation piece. That is not what people are saying. So for these arguments to be made and for people to compare Meek and Drake and say, well, it's not even comparable. It's not comparable at all. Drake wasn't lying when he said, is this your tour or your girl's tour? Your world tour or your girl's tour, right? He wasn't lying about that. That's factual information. Kendrick is fabricating information. That's the difference. So maybe it would have been alright if everything had been proven fact in all these songs, but it hasn't been proven fact. So it gives credence for defamation. And once you have the credence for defamation, you further have the arguments for recoup, for asking to be for recoupment. Now, I don't know. I think it's pretty straightforward that if you're the biggest artist of all time, and the next step was that paycheck, but they tried to devalue you so they can give you a lesser paycheck, and it's connected to a battle that you kind of weren't really gonna do because you were going on vacation, right? You dropped a song that you wanted to be a three-way collaboration between yourself, Cole, and Kendrick. You didn't get that wish, so you rock with Cole Kendrick turns around and instead of collaborating with you, takes a shot at you on Future's project, which also needs attention and in itself to get the sales it requires. But it's not like Kendrick drops the record by himself. He drops it on a Future project, which is definitely going to bring attention because it's Future's project. Puts pressure on Drake where that's a collaborator, right? You got to respond. Drake doesn't really, in a sense, want to respond, but I guess the pressure is like, you got to respond. So he responds. Okay. And realistically, I think the battle would have been interesting if it was between J. Cole and Kendrick. That would have been a very interesting battle for the hip hop heads. They weren't. I don't think anyone who was hip hop heady was hungry to see Drake and Kendrick face off. I think it's just folks who understood the gossip and the beef between them over the years was looking and seeing this about to bubble over. Is like, yo, it's gonna happen eventually. But from an actual purist perspective, it was really Cole versus Kendrick. We wanted to see who was the wittier of the two, who really could play the game of lyrical smearcle in terms of battling each other in 2023. Now, 2024, now 2025. Anyways, so all I had to say, kind of disappointed at Act's assessment of the case or of the lawsuit so far, because I think there's bias. At the end of the day, many hip hop artists have used the legal system to fight their beefs. It's nothing new. The streets have used the legal system to fight their beefs. People have fake called police on their ops, got their ops raided. People have done all kinds of evil things. There's no rules in life. Life is lifing. And you have to understand that. The sooner you understand that, the less you're stressed by trying to keep up with the Joneses and the ideals and the idealisms of competing with the Joneses. And you'll just compete for life. You won't think about it from these superficial boundaries because they don't exist. At the same time, within your own scope, you will rate things based on your scope. So I'm not going to tell you to value things that you don't value or to dismiss things that you value. If you value something, value it. If you don't, you don't. But I think within this entertainment realm of us trying to hold moral standards and say, well, hip hop is this form of entertainment that is so righteous, we know it's not because of the amount of archetypes that are also embedded in the scene itself. And I think the Drake archetype has shown itself to be one that outstayed its welcome. It's a very powerful archetype. It's a very loved archetype in terms of being used by all the other ones in the space to bring about more income and more enfranchisement for the group. But just generally itself, as it moves within the space, causes a lot of disruption. Is pretty toxic. So I think folks just wanted to see this dude or see Drake's archetype be humbled, and he refuses to humble himself. He was refusing. This lawsuit is that his lawsuit is saying, you guys didn't pay me by using my name to revitalize the entire hip hop scene, and you did it at my expense. So now you got to pay me, and it's fair enough because he was saying that from the first diss record. Give me the loot. Give me fit. You know what I mean? Like he's been asking for bread the entire time. He really wasn't caring about destroying anyone's career, winning any kind of battle in terms of lyrical smirkle dirical. He was just saying, yo, you guys owe me way more money. You guys using my name. This is my name. Like my team. We built this. We built this. We were in the rooms creating the music. You guys just wanted to give me a check to eat off of me. So I allowed you guys to eat. But my production team's in-house. My writing team's in-house. Everybody's in-house. You guys can hate on everything. Ghostwrite, you can hate on everything, but it's all in-house. So give me the bread when you use my name. Especially if you're going to use it positively, you gave me the bread. But if you're going to use it negatively, give me the bread too. And I stand for that. I agree with that. That's part of being enfranchised as black people. And it's crazy that it's the black folk in the States who don't get it. Wake up.